Politics of the United Nations, the UN Security Council and Kosovo. Kosovo, action or inaction? The most important UN Security Council resolution was number 1244, which ended the violence and created an international protectorate in Kosovo. However, before this resolution, 3 others had been passed to try and stop the violence in Kosovo. These previous resolutions imposed a comprehensive arms embargo, condemned the excessive use of force by Serbian forces and acts of terrorism by Kosovo Albanian groups, ordered the withdrawal of Serbian forces and called on each side to engage in dialogue. These first few Security Council resolutions were, in theory, very admirable and full of promise. The fact that they outlined the brokering of a ceasefire agreement and established the OSCE Kosovo verification mission between October 1998 to March 1999 should not be underestimated. The lack of cooperation from the Serbian authorities and the KLA was to cause problems, not the actions of the well-intentioned United Nations. So, what did the UN Security Council Resolution 1244 actually do? To break it down simply, it did 3 main things. It demanded the ending of all violence and the withdrawal of Serbian military, police and paramilitary forces from Kosovo. It placed Kosovo under an interim administration and the deployment of a civil and security presence. It also required the UN to ensure the safe return of all refugees and displaced persons to their homes in Kosovo. Resolution 1244 is a good example of how the UN Security Council can be used for decision-making and action-taking. Without this UN resolution, who knows what would have become of the situation in Kosovo? NATO and its bombing campaign, for all its bravado, ended up needing the help of the UN that it once dismissed. Resolution 1244 is typical of what can be achieved when states in the UN Security Council work together for the greater good. This action by the UN, and a bold action at that, through Resolution 1244, must be commended. The UN temporarily suspended the sovereignty of Yugoslavia to establish a protectorate, a very rare occasion in UN history. UN Security Council Resolution 1244 was a huge advance forward for the protection of human rights and an end to violence, but it is not without its flaws. The resolution does not support a long-term time frame, and it offers no political framework for a discussion on independence. This is one area of inaction, and to this day it still leaves a big question mark over the status of Kosovo and its claims to be an independent sovereign state. If there is to be any criticism of inaction, this is where the criticism should be directed towards. Shortly after the ending of NATO's bombing campaign, US officials were already blaming the UN for NATO's failure to restore peace and stability to the region. The UN, which has once excluded any role, now had to clean up the mess NATO made. Washington finally admitted that it needed the UN to orchestrate the deal to end the war, withdraw Yugoslav troops, and create an international protectorate in Kosovo. It is somewhat ironic that the US initially rejected any UN role in decision-making about military action, but were more than happy to use the UN as a scapegoat and hold the UN accountable for the aftermath of the US NATO bombing campaign. One US senator mocked the UN by stating, "The United Nations moves very slowly to assume its responsibilities." Is this an example of the US having a brass neck, violating the UN Charter and expecting the blame to fall on the UN?